Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Delete and today is a very special day. Today is the day that Goblins versus Gnomes cards have entered the arena. They have tinkered their way in, and as such everyone has been granted one free pass into the arena to preview these cards. And a free pass into arena basically means a free card pack, so why not? So I'm just making this video just to see how this would work out drafting the new Goblins vs. Gnomes cards. So I'm very excited. And let's actually pick something interesting. I think the class of these three here that got some really interesting class cards in the new expansion. Well, Warlock for sure was one of them. Actually, all three of these classes got some really good 2 and 3 drop minions, so I'm really excited to take a look at them. If you guys haven't seen the Goblins vs. Gnomes cards or the recent balance changes, I really do recommend you go check those out on, YouTube or Blizzard's site, or even the Battle.net launcher as a update log. So there's some really interesting changes. For now, I'm gonna pick Thrall the Shaman because I like Shaman. I like his hero ability. Okay, Feral Spirit is gonna be my first pick. Whoa! Illuminator and Dunemaul Shaman. Dunemaul Shaman, Wind Fury, Overload 1, 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy. This card, would I actually take this card? 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy. Could I pick it just for the hell of it and just to experiment with this card? And I think a lot of people are going to do that. Illuminator is not going to be picked just because I am a Shaman, I don't have secrets, and Mana Addict is just a terrible card. So Dunemaul Shaman it is. Harvest Golem is now a mech, which is super exciting, which makes this card even better than it already was. Annoyotron is a fantastic card design, but I don't think I'm going to be picking it here. I'm going to go with the Harvest Golem. Let's go with Amani Berserker or Bloodsail Raider. Would I pick up a Stormforged Axe? Yeah, I'll probably pick the Amani Berserker. More independently good. Scarlet Crusader is great. Ooze is fantastic. It's all really meh cards. I'm gonna go with Windspeaker. Jungle Panther. There seems to be a Wind Fury theme happening in my deck right now with Windspeaker, Dunemaul Shaman, and now Wind Fury. Would I pick Wind Fury over Ironforge Rifleman? I just feel like Ironforge Rifleman doesn't do enough, and I do have a Scarlet Crusader and Amani Berserker, and well, I can't Wind Fury or Dunemaul Shaman. I'll go with this, see how this Wind Fury kind of deck rolls out. Kezan Mystic. Take control of a random enemy secret. This will be really good. Really good. But is it better than Sludge Belcher? Should I take it just to see how this card works in Arena? A 4-mana 4/3 is not super exciting though. If it was a 3-mana 4/3 then it for sure, but of course it can't be with that effect. I think I'm gonna go with a more independently strong card, which is Sludge Belcher. But I'm really excited to see another Kezan Mystic and hopefully pick that up. Flying Machine is awful. Shield Bearer is also awful. And Frost Shock is also awful. Wow. Okay. Should I pick this just to follow the Wind Fury theme? Well, Frost Shock, there is a little bit of synergy with it. I could Wind Fury a minion that I play, Frost Shock an opponent's minion, and kinda up the chances that it stays alive. Shield Bearer also does a very similar job in keeping units alive, but this is actually very, very tough. Pick. Now, if I were to draw one of these three cards, like the one I end up picking, and then ask myself, gosh, let's just say I pick Flying Machine, and in that situation it's awful card, and would I think to myself, gosh, I wish I had picked Frost Shock or Shield Bearer instead? It's hard to say. I feel like I'm gonna go with Frost Shock, just because. And the reason I'm gonna go with Frost Shock here is I'm just gonna think of it as a cheaper, better mage hero ability, which will do a lot more than a Shield Bearer most times. Undertaker, 1 Death Rattle so far, 2 Death Rattle so far. Not enough to justify picking the card. Ancestral Healing is pretty awful, so I'm gonna go with the Murloc Tidehunter. Tinkertown Technician, if you have a mech, gain +1/+1 and add a spare part to your hand. And Micro Machine, at the start of each turn, gain +1 attack. This card is amazing, and so is this card. But so far, I only have one mech, so Tinkertown Technician is not going to happen. Micro Machine is an amazing card. I'm going to pick this. Whirling Zap-O-Matic. This card is so strong. I have to pick it. Gnomes Infantry. Charge and Taunt, but it's a 1/4, which makes it god-awful. Ooze or Earth Shock. Would I pick up a second Ooze? Yeah, why not? Do I need a Silence in this deck? I don't have one currently, but how strong is Silence? What if my opponent gets a really nasty mech card, like for example an Out of Control Micro Machine or a Tinkertown Technician? I think I might actually need an Earth Shock. Let's see, in 2 drops I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2 drops already. In Shaman I would like around 6 is a fair amount, 7 is great, 8 is too much in my opinion. We're about halfway through the draft. I already have, again, 5. So I think I'm going to go with the Earth Shock, even though Ooze is great. But if I didn't already have an Ooze, I would pick the Ooze. But I'm going to go with the Earth Shock here. And of course they would give me, more early game. Worgen Infiltrator is just the best one there. Stormwind Champion, very good in Shaman, very much needed late game. Flame Tongue Totem, awesome card, not really a 2-drop. Yeti, can't argue with that. Clockwork Giant, I don't think this card is amazing in Arena, but then again, neither is the Doomsayer or the Murloc War Leader. However, I do have a Murloc Tidehunter, which would make this card really good. Murloc War Leader or Clockwork Giant costs 1 less for each card in your opponent's hand. So on average, if I were to pick this card up in the late game, it'd be really bad, because I'm assuming that in the late game we're kind of in a top decking situation. In the mid game, my opponent would probably have on average 4 cards, which would make this 8 mana, which is a little too much. So I'm going to go with the Murloc War Leader and hopefully get some synergy with the Tidehunter. Stone Splinter Trog. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, gain +1 attack. I already have a Worgen Infiltrator, and I do want to test this card out and see how effective it can be. It's basically like, as Trump, the mayor of Valuetown, put it, is a spell taunt. In the sense that if your opponent does not take out this minion and uses spells elsewhere, they're in a lot of trouble. Spells, however, aren't that common in Arena as much as minions. Most people would put good minions over good spells. There are some really good spells out there, of course. But those spells are so good that Stone Splinter Trog isn't going to make a difference anyways. But however, I will pick it because I already have a Worgen Infiltrator. I think 2 is a little too much, and variety is always good. I have a lot of 2 drops, and we're 20 cards into the draft and only have 2 5+ cards. So right now I'm strictly gonna look for late game. And I get one Adventure Mercenary. Goblin Stalker seems like a good card as well. However, I can't pick it here. But I do want to test that card out in the future. See how much better it is than Worgen. Is it actually playable? Well, probably not playable in Constructed, but is it better than Worgen in Arena? We'll have to see. Silvermoon Guardian is great. It's obviously not an early game card, so I'm going to pick that. Mogashin Warden. Is it better than Dread Corsair here? If I pick up a Stormforged Axe, I'm going to be very sour about picking up this card. What's better, a 3/3 or a 1/7? Considering I have a lot of Wind Fury mechanics, I think the Mogashin Warden is better to protect my Wind Fury minion. Oh jeez, okay. I'm gonna have to go with the Forked Lightning here. A lot of early game. Ship's Cannon. Whenever you summon a pirate, deal 2 damage to random enemy. Interesting card, potentially a good card, but no pirates in this deck. Silvermoon Guardian, obviously over the Frostwolf Grunt, although having 2 Silvermoon Guardians is meh. Youthful Brewmaster. In the early game, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards already. That's already on the high end. So unfortunately I can't pick up the Youthful Brewmaster. A 3rd Silvermoon Guardian is just nuts, so I'm gonna go with the Dragonling mechanic, which is good with the Flame Tongue Totem. Boulder Fist Ogre or Dark Iron Dwarf. No, I have to pick the late game. I'm already like at the end of my draft here. Ancient Brewmaster over Booty Bay Bodyguard. And the nerfed Gadgetzan Auctioneer. I do have 1, 2, 3, 4 low cost spells. Feral Spirit also counts as a spell. But does it justify picking up Gadgetzan Auctioneer? I also have Jeeves, who's a mech. Although I don't really have any mech synergy, I didn't pick up the Tinkertown Technician. At the end of each player's turn. Now, what are the chances that I'm gonna have less than 3 cards? Lots of early game, very little late game. You know, actually, pretty high chance. I don't have a lot of 5+ cards. So Jeeves is actually looking better. Now, what card here, Jeeves or Auctioneer, is gonna allow me to draw more cards? And I'm kind of leaning towards Jeeves a bit, but the problem is Jeeves would benefit my opponent. So it's like, okay, do I pick up Jeeves because I think he's better than Gadgetzan Auctioneer for this particular deck, even though Auctioneer is strong with the 1 mana spells? Or do I pick Gadgetzan Auctioneer because I don't want my opponent to utilize Jeeves that much? You know what, because this is the GVG free entry arena, I should honor Blizzard's gift to me and pick up this new card and see how it does. Alrighty. In the early game I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards, which is on the high end, but they're pretty good quality early game cards, so I can't really imagine a world where I fall behind with this early game. Late game is really weak. 1, 2, 3, 4 cards only, and I do have a Wind Speaker, Wind Fury, Dune Maul Shaman. So I do have some Wind Fury mechanics to go with the Flame Tongue Totem to try to keep me in the game. Micro Machine, if I manage to keep it safe somehow, would also be really good. This is a really interesting deck. There are some mediocre cards, but also some good ones. I did pick up a Feral Spirit and a Forked Lightning, which is exciting, and a Flame Tongue Totem, but no Lightning Storms. So, in terms of catch-up mechanisms, Forked Lightning is kind of one. Flame Tongue Totem is kind of one. Jeeves kind of, not really. Um, This is interesting. I'm not sure what to say about this, but I think the weakness is definitely in the lack of late game, for sure. So what's the strategy with this deck? Pile on the pressure early on. Can I rush the opponent down, knowing that I have very little late game and I have Wind Fury mechanics in this deck, and a Micro Machine, and a Murloc Tidehunter, and a Murloc War Leader, and 2 stealth minions? You know what? I could. I think this deck has to go for the aggressive route and force my opponent to make the trades. Because once it gets to the late game, I'm basically screwed. And if my opponent still has 30 health because I've been trading minions around, it's not going to work out. Well, because this was a free entry, I'm not going to be too pressured to get 7 wins or anything. Not to say that I'm good enough to get 7 wins all the time anyways, but hopefully I can go at least 4 wins with this. Let's see how it goes. Alrighty, so this concludes the first part, which is the draft. Tune in next time for the next video, where I start to play some games.